Well, guys, I have to apologize for the technical difficulty that we had prior. So we're going to try to pick up. You know, it happens.
It happens.
If it happens with CNN, NBC, WABC, why not with Yonkers Watch, right?
Of course.
It happens. So Chris is here, and we're going to continue this conversation from this point on. Hopefully you guys heard what he said. So, Chris, homeless in Yonkers.
Right.
It's a big problem.
Absolutely.
When you took office, it was a problem. Now you are in office a year, how long has it been?
Almost a year and a half.
Almost a year and a half. It's still a problem.
Yes.
But maybe it's a little bit bigger of a problem depending from which angle you see it. How do you see it?
So I have to take a larger look at the picture, and we have to figure out why people are homeless, right? So we all know, everybody knows that some people have mental health issues, and they end up not being able to keep their housing because they can't keep a job or whatever it may be. We all know that there are people who have substance abuse issues, and so because of their addiction, they're unable to make sure that they are responsible enough to keep their housing. But a large portion of this is just due to the lack of affordable housing. And so so from that perspective, I've decided to take a look at it and say, what can we do to make sure that there's more affordable housing available, or that people can stay in their housing that they have found to be affordable. And so while building affordable housing is really done on the city level, and so I'm supportive of the council's move to expand the housing ordinance that I was able to vote on when I was on the council. At the county level, what I wanted to do was make sure that individuals who are losing their housing have the ability to stay within their housing. Because if I lose my apartment, then I'm homeless. But if I get to stay in my apartment, then I'm not. And so we want to make sure that people get to stay in their housing so that they don't become homeless. And if we can stop the bleeding at that point, then we can make sure that we help people who have fallen into that segment of society who are homeless. But we want to stop people from becoming homeless.
But you're saying that, well, you're not saying, but let me ask you, do you think that the majority of the people who are homeless have mental illness issues?
No.
No.
Majority of the people who are homeless, it is not about mental health, it is not about substance abuse. This is an affordable housing issue. There are people who are working every single day who don't have housing, who can't afford housing. And so they're in our drop-in shelters, they're in our family shelters, they're in our temporary shelters, and it's just because they can't afford housing. Now there is a subset of people who are suffering from mental health issues. There is a subset of people who are addicted to substances, and so that adds another layer. But most of the individuals who are in the situation, it's because they can't find housing that's affordable here in Westchester.
Chris, don't you think that is extremely sad?
Absolutely.
That in the United States of America, #1 country in the world, that we have people, veterans, families in shelters because they cannot afford a place to stay.
The richest county in the richest country on the planet Earth. And we have people who work every day and can't afford a place to live. And we should be ashamed of that.
We should. You know, we spend billions of dollars in wars that perhaps many agree that we shouldn't be there in the first place.
Right.
But we don't take care of Americans, veterans, that we should be taking care of in the first place.
Absolutely.
And they out there. The other day I interviewed a homeless that happened to be a veteran that slept in a park. That man risked his life and made the biggest sacrifice of risking his own life for our freedom.
And he doesn't have a place to live, and we're not doing what we should do to make sure that he does have those opportunities. And so that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we focused on. I personally have people who I know who have fallen into this situation, and it's not their own fault. It just circumstances build. People have health issues. People lose their employment temporarily. Landlords say we're not renewing your lease, and so you have to go, and there's nowhere to go. There are lots of circumstances that put people in these situations, and until we recognize that as a society and we're ready to actually make the changes that need to be made to help those individuals, we're going to continue with this problem.
You see, this interview was about the election, but since
vote for me.
Vote for Chris, okay? But since you basically have these, because people are happy with what you have, what you've done. So now we're talking about Christopher the man, okay? How you see things. Perhaps there is issues that we are talking about that are not in the scope of your responsibilities as a Westchester County legislator. But Christopher the man might have a connection with those issues. And you're still a Yonkers guy.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Still a Yonkers guy, and education has always been close to my heart. That was my number one issue while I served on the Yonkers City Council, and it's not something that I have the scope of dealing with as a county legislator, but it's something that I pay attention to. I speak to some council members regularly about what we can do to make sure that our young people have better access to their education. We're looking at what we can do to make sure that young people who have graduated from Yonkers Public Schools have transportation to get to Westchester Community College, and what we can do to make sure that the bus routes run for high school students who take the public buses in the morning to school, and what we can do to make sure that the Department of Social Services is interacting with our school district when appropriate, to make sure that those families who need services are receiving them. So we've got a lot of work to do to make sure that young people are being serviced, and that will continue to be a passion of mine.
But now let me bring this up. Crime in Yonkers, not crime in general, but I want to talk a specific group where we are seeing, as day goes by, more and more people in that age group are involved in serious crime. Killing, shootings, stabbings, kids killing kids, okay? Just a month ago we had about 3 murders in Yonkers, okay? One on Lake Avenue, one in front of the hospital, and one on not Lamartine, Vineyard.
Okay, right.
Vineyard. How do you see that, Chris? Is it a problem with education? Is it a problem with kids having kids? Is it a problem with society? What is the problem?
So when young people don't have structure, and that can come from many different places, bad things happen. Their minds are not fully developed. They don't process conflict well. Conflict resolution is not something, conflict resolution has to be taught, right? It's not something that's innate within us. And so when young people don't have that type of guidance, whether it be from a teacher or a guidance counselor or a psychologist or a principal in the school system, whether it be from your parents at home, whether it be from someone that they look up to in an after-school program or karate or dance or sports, when they don't have those opportunities, then things go wrong, and they look for someone to look up to. And if you're someone who is willing to take advantage of a situation, a predator of sorts, you can take advantage of these young people who don't know where to go, who don't have that guidance. And that's a problem that I think that we're seeing right now. We see families who, even if they're 2-parent households or 1-parent household, who have to work so much to make sure that they keep food on the table and they keep a roof over their head, that they're not home and they're not able to participate as much as they would like in their child's life. We have a school district that is overburdened, with classrooms that are full, with student services that don't exist to the level that they should, with the lack of guidance counselors and school psychologists and social workers. We have a lack of after-school programs, with no art and music in elementary schools, with a lack of access to the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA being overpacked, or other organizations in the city, nonprofits, looking for where to find their funding so that they can expand programs, and that they're finding difficulty. So if their programs are shrinking and the schools don't have the resources and the families are too busy, where are these children finding structure from? And they're not finding that structure. And so what we're seeing is tragic. We're seeing young people die, which is tragic, and we're seeing young people take those lives and end up in a system which, for all intents and purposes, is a slow death.
I'll tell you one thing, Chris. I come from a country in South Africa, in the continent of in South Africa, where we didn't have dance after school, we didn't have karate after school, we did not have tutoring after school, and I don't remember kids killing kids. But here, lately, I've been seeing a lot of that. And I think sometimes, I'm not saying I'm an expert on that, I'm not. I'm just giving my personal opinion. We find excuses. Oh, it's because we don't have programs. Well, I have interviewed in the last 3 weeks many people. PAL, tons of programs, karate, baseball, basketball, tutoring, this thing that girls do with the skate, derby something, I don't even know the name of it.
Roller derby.
Roller derby. They have tons of programs, but they don't have kids in those programs. But remember, for those kids to be in those programs, parents have to walk through those doors to register the kids. I interviewed the CEO of YWCA. They have programs, but there is no kids there. It's not like people on a waiting list.
All these programs aren't free, and two, as you said, parents have to walk through the doors. So if your parents are at work until they leave for work at 7 and don't get home from work until 8 p.m., when is the opportunity for them to walk through those doors to make sure that their young people have access to those things?
You want me to tell you when? I'm going to talk to the director of the PAL, and I'm going to tell him, Douglas, I don't remember his name, Douglas Gray. I'm going to say, Douglas, let's do an experiment here. Parents work until 7 o'clock. They don't have time to come in and register the kids, even though the PAL is open after 7. But they get home tired. So tomorrow, we're going to advertise that we're going to give $50 away to any parent that walks through those doors before 4 o'clock. And I can guarantee you that we have a line outside. Okay. I think, Chris, if you have a son or daughter, and if your problem is lack of programs, and there is places with programs, you're going to make that sacrifice to get there.
If that sacrifice means that you miss work, then maybe you don't make that sacrifice because you have to get paid so that you can provide the necessities for your children. Look,
PAL is open on Saturdays.
Look, every household has different circumstances, and I can't speak for every single family in Yonkers or every single family that has different circumstances. But I can tell you that, and you know this, you have a large network on Yonkers Voice, but you don't touch everyone.
Correct.
And I represent 58,000 people, and I don't touch everyone. And the mayor represents the whole city, 200,000 people. And there are still people who have no idea what's going on. I saw a video, a picture the other night of the Yonkers City budget hearing, and it was empty. Don't tell me that people don't have concerns about their taxes, or how much, if programs are being cut from the schools, or if teachers are being laid off, or whether or not the Parks Department can have whatever programs, or whether or not potholes are being fixed. Don't tell me those things aren't problems for individuals, that they don't care about those things, because we know that they do. But people are not getting the information, and there's a million ways to get information now. Sometimes there's information overload, and then some people aren't reacting to the information that they get. And so I can't speak to every single circumstance, but we know that that yes, programs exist, but there needs to be more opportunity, more access to these things for these young people, because a 15-year-old does not choose to pick up a weapon and take a life on his own. That is not something that is innate within us. That is learned behavior, that is taught, and that is something that, had that young person had a different direction given to them years ago, they would have taken that. I believe that.
No, don't take me wrong. I'm not trying to put you on the spot
No,
or saying that
absolutely.
all parents are wrong. We know that they're not. I'm not saying that every parent can take a day off. We know that they can't. There is parents, they live on a day-to-day basis. They need their day. But all I'm saying is sometimes, and that happens to me too, I try to find excuses not to do something instead of finding reasons to do something.
Right.
Okay.
That's true.
That's all I'm saying. If you have the time, if those parents have the time, try to be there. Those
Agreed.
programs are there. Try to take advantage of it. Try to find a reason to be there. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Now let's go back a little bit to the education. The formula. Yonkers had this formula that, when they talk about the formula, I have no freaking idea what they're talking about. Okay, and I know there is a whole bunch of other people that have no idea. They mention the formula, but if I say to one of them, can you explain what that formula is, or what you're talking about, and they don't know. Do you know?
So I don't know all of the, I'll say ingredients in the formula, and the reason why I say ingredients is, imagine you go out to a restaurant and you really appreciate the meal that you had. And they can tell you, like, this is, the waiter can tell you, oh, the chef did this, and this is the formula, or this is, you know, what they did to make it, but they don't know all of the ingredients that were involved, and they don't know the steps to preparation, because they're just the waitress. So I'm a county legislator. When I was on the city council, you know, we did deal with education, but the formula happens at the state level. Some of the things that are entangled in that are the wealth of Westchester County. So it looks at the county that you're in. It looks at the, which means that the property value in Yonkers, Westchester obviously, but Yonkers specifically, is more valuable than land in, you know, Yates County, New York, or Wyoming County, or, you know, some other place, upstate New York. And so because of that, they feel like they have to give Yonkers less. And there's a whole bunch of other things that are included in that, that make it so that the number that Yonkers gets is less than what some of these other school districts get. Now, it doesn't take into account the income levels of individuals who use the school district. I think that they just tweaked it a few years ago to take into account the growth of the school district, which was a positive thing. A lot of these other school districts are getting smaller, and Yonkers is getting bigger. So these things are now, that's included, and so that helps us get a little bit more money. But overall, the formula does not work for the city of Yonkers, and most of it is because of property value.
Mm-hmm. Now, the next question is not also a question about you as a Westchester County legislator, because as we know, and as we said earlier, you got this, okay? But I want to talk to you and ask you your opinion, because your opinion matters, and people are listening to you. You were the council here for the first district, right? And so you are a resident of Yonkers.
Yes.
You pay taxes in Yonkers.
Yes.
Budget, it's coming up. Taxes might increase again. I don't know. I'm not privileged to any information, but it might increase again.
Well, the mayor proposed an increase of
Exactly.
2.5%, I believe. Could be wrong.
Last year, we had a fit because of the increase.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes again. How you feel about that?
So I like to think about the services that government provides rather than how much it costs, right? If I want to eat dinner tonight and I don't want to pay a lot of money, I may go to a fast food place, or I may go to, you know, a small restaurant. But if I want a high-class meal, then I'll go to a high-class place and I'll pay a high-class price. And so when I think about taxes, I think about the services that we provide. And if we can provide high-class services, which is what, as a county legislator, we pride ourselves in Westchester County in the totality, then you may pay a high-class price, which is why Westchester is one of the highest tax counties in the nation. And part of that is the education, the cost of education in a lot of these other communities in Westchester County. But to the Yonkers budget, if I am a fan of making sure that individuals are getting the services that they pay for. So if we're fixing your potholes, if your kids are getting a good education, if the parks are pristine, if those things exist, you care less. I'm not saying that you don't care at all, but you would care less about how much you're paying for those things because you know you're getting a good product. However, if we're not providing that product, people will complain about the price that they're paying for it. And so people will therefore complain about the taxes that they have to pay. So we need to make sure that in this city, and it's the mayor and the council who need to make sure that individuals are getting what they pay for when they pay their taxes. And that's my thought.
Well, I can choose to go to McDonald's, or I can choose to go to
X2O.
X2O.
Oh no, we got to shout out Dolphin.
Or Dolphin. Or Dolphin. I can choose. But I cannot choose to pay taxes or don't pay taxes. I don't have an option. Well, I don't have kids going to school, so do I get a discount? I'm paying the taxes.
Right.
And these taxes people that are paying those taxes cannot afford. They couldn't afford the 6% they got last year. And I'm sure they cannot afford an increase. And it's not like the services in Yonkers are getting an upgrade from last year to this year.
So
or maybe, am I wrong?
That's the challenge that is on the mayor and the city council members, making sure that the services are provided. I do reject the idea that, oh, because I don't have children in the schools, maybe I shouldn't pay for them.
It was just an example.
No, and I understand, because I've heard that, and I'm sure you have as well. So that's something that people say, but I don't call the police. Should I not pay for the police? You may not call the fire department. Should you not pay for the fire department? No, we pay for these services because as a society, this is an agreement that we have, that we will all participate in making sure that these things are available for all of us.
Yeah, but I'll give you the other side. The other side of the coin thinks that the reason we're getting tax increases, it's because of some kind of mismanagement in the city where money is not reaching, so they have to make it up, for that money that is missing. And how do we make it up? Increase taxes. Not that we are increasing services, because the services are exactly the same as this year, last year, the year before. And every year, I've been living in Yonkers for about 40 years, and every single year is the same la.
You take the bus?
I don't take the bus.
Okay.
But once in a while I can.
Once in a while, okay. So if you took the bus 10 years ago, it cost $2. You take the bus now, it's $2.75. It's the same bus, the same route, maybe more traffic on the street, but you pay more because costs go up. You drive a car, you pay for gas. 6 months ago, it was one price. You pay for gas today, it's a different price because prices fluctuate. And so the reality is that affects government as well. Individuals get raises. It costs more to heat a building. You need to do rehab,
union
and fix
contracts
things.
And all that.
Your road has to get repaved, right? It was paved once, so you paid for it once, but I got to pay for it again because it needs to be repaved. So costs go up, and that's a reality. And I'm not saying that it's fair or it's good or that it's as efficient or equitable as it should be. There's work to be done, and I think that those are the reasons why we have elections. Those are the reasons why we challenge elected officials. I'm sure there'll be a number of comments on this video that talk about and have lots of ideas about how government can be better, how some people disagree with the things that I've said, and that's what this is about, having this conversation so that we can be more efficient, so that we can grow. So,
let me just put this in this position. The reason why I'm asking you these questions is not because I agree or disagree. I'm just asking these questions so you can articulate
my position,
okay,
so
your position, and people that are watching this video can understand and see it from the other end.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is why this happened. Yeah, taxes are increased, but guys, everything goes up.
Well, once again, I do want to make sure that we frame this for individuals who are watching. You talk about the city taxes and what's happening on the city level. I don't have any responsibility towards that at this time. And when I was on the council, I did vote against a 6% tax increase that did pass because I didn't feel like, just as you said, people were paying 6% more for the same exact services that they were getting yesterday. And I thought that if you were going to pay more, then you should get a little bit more. And that should be reflected in what people pay. But that was my perspective at that time. This council and the mayor who was there and is still here, they have their perspective and it's their prerogative. That's why they were elected.
So let me use the bus example. Just because the bus went up does not mean that the bus now picks me up at home. It still picks me up in the same place and drops me in the same place, but now I'm paying maybe $1 more.
Yeah.
So taxes go up, not because you're getting a better service, because cost of doing business goes up.
And then hopefully, though, you'll see improvements in those things. So since we use the transportation example, and that is a county thing, what we did was we were able to buy new buses. And so those buses have charging stations on them. So when you take the bus, you can charge your phone. They have bike racks on them.
That is important because we want people to stay connected to Yonkers Voice even if you're on the bus.
Exactly. And they have bike racks because we want people to be more environmentally friendly. So Yonkers is a hilly place. So you bike where you can, and when you can't, slap your bike on the back of a bus, on the front of a bus, get on the bus and ride somewhere where you can continue to enjoy your ride. Those are efficiencies and those are improvements that we were able to make, and so that people could see while they're paying a little bit more, they also appreciate the fact that look, I'm getting something for it.
So guys, just another recap. Christopher Johnson does not have an opposition for the Westchester County position at this time.
Legislator, yep.
At this time. But Christopher Johnson is a man that loves Yonkers, resides in Yonkers, are affected by issues of Yonkers,
Absolutely.
and is a man that has an opinion about many things. So we're just taking this opportunity to talk about his views,
Appreciate it.
okay, about issues, because we love to talk to our elected officials, regardless if it's about current issues, about how you see issues, possible solutions, or just to articulate the other side of the coin. Because a lot of people sometimes make their opinion or mine because of things that people say,
Right.
not because of facts. Sometimes they don't understand the facts.
Right.
Okay? And I like to be the other side that presents what people think and allow you or the elected officials to correct me and put out the right information. So now I can make up my mind
Absolutely.
about facts, about how things really are, and
Absolutely.
not about how I think that things are.
Right.
So, Chris, did I forget to mention anything? Anything that you want to mention?
Just that I've had the opportunity and the pleasure of representing individuals in District 16 for the last year and a half. And I'm excited to have an opportunity to do it again, which is why I'm running for re-election. So I hope that people still turn out with the same energy, the same fever, and vote. I hope that they vote for me and that they don't skip over, so that we can go back to White Plains, and I can show my colleagues that I continue to have support from the people that I represent.
Now, do you have any particular item, issue that it's pressing that you are focused on working now if, once you get reelected to the position?
Yeah, so the state passed some reforms to our criminal justice system and how we deal with individuals who have committed crimes or have been accused of committed crimes. And so at the county level, we have a lot of work to do by January to make sure that we have processes in place to deal with that. So that is going to be my focus over the next few months, and then as we turn the clock into next year, making sure that those things are efficient and we're dealing with that properly.
So guys, election time is coming up. Don't just talk about it. Come out
Absolutely.
and vote. That's what really counts. It's when you cast your vote. You can talk on social media all you want. And if you don't come out and vote,
Doesn't count.
it doesn't count. Nothing is
count.
going to happen. Okay? Talk about term limits. Look, we could have 100 term limits or no term limits at all. Run as many times as you want. Nothing stops you next time around not to vote for that person.
Right, to vote for someone else.
Vote for someone else. You're not happy with the performance or what the person does, vote for the next guy. So we make a big deal of term limits, but we forget that I'm not obligated to vote for you.
Every election is a term limit.
Exactly. So stay tuned on Yonkers Voice. We bring to you what we feel that really matters to our audience. Comment on this thread, on this post. If Mr. Johnson has time, he will reply to whatever comments he thinks are worthy of reply. As I said, we are going to ignore rudeness, unpolite comments, and I will actually delete them because we don't want to address that. We want to address issues. We want to talk about issues that are important to Yonkers, to the county. So feel free to engage and feel free to talk to us. Leave your comment. Share Yonkers Voice. Let's talk.
One quick thing, Sprain Ridge Pool will be open this summer. See you at the
Oh,
pool.
okay. Thank you, Chris. It's always nice to talk to you.
Pleasure.
Stay tuned for more.